In this lesson, we're going to be studying a new form of quadratics called the vertex form. This is the vertex form, y equals a, x minus h, the quantity squared plus k. The great thing about the vertex form is that the hk is our vertex. So unlike standard form, we don't have to use a formula or calculate. And the axis of symmetry is x equals h. Now notice in the formula that there is a minus sign. So that means when you find your h value, it's going to be the opposite of what you see in the equation, but the k value will be exactly the way it is. Our a value, our leading coefficient, still has the same purposes. It tells us whether the graph opens up or down, and it also tells us whether the graph is narrower or wider. So let's take a look at our first problem. When we take a look at our first problem, we notice that our leading coefficient is 2, so our parabola will open up. Our vertex is at 1, 3. Remember, it's the opposite of what you see as our h value. And our axis of symmetry is at x equals 1. So we will mark in our axis of symmetry the vertical line that passes through 1 on our x-axis. And then we will mark in our vertex at 1, 3. Our table is next, and so when we are making our table, we make our parent function table of 0, 1, 2, 3, and then we square each of those for our x squared, which is our parent function. Our leading coefficient is 2, so we're going to multiply the middle column by 2. We cross off the middle column because we have changed our parabola to be taller and narrower. We'll circle our vertex, which is at 0, 0. Then we'll mark in the rest of our points. Starting at our vertex, we're going to go 1 to the right and 2 up. And we're going to go 2 to the right and 8 up. Just be off of our graph. Then we're going to reflect our points to the other side. And we're going to draw in our parabola that is opening up. Our next problem is y equals negative x plus 5, the quantity squared, plus 2. Notice our leading coefficient is negative, so our parabola opens down. Our vertex is going to be at negative 5, positive 2, remembering that the formula is negative, so if it says plus, that's going to be the opposite of what we see, and our axis of symmetry is going to be at x equals negative 5. So we'll go to negative 5 on the x-axis. We're going to draw our vertical line at x equals negative 5. We're going to put our vertex at negative 5, positive 2. And then we're going to make our parent function table. 0, 1, 2, 3. X squared will be 0, 1, 4, 9. We will need our third column at negative 1y. So we're going to multiply all of that center column by negative 1. Circling our 0, 0, that's our vertex, and crossing off our middle column because our negative has now turned our parabola upside down. Starting at our vertex, we're going to go 1 to the right and 1 down, then 2 to the right and 4 down, and then 3 to the right and 9 down. We'll reflect those points to the other side of our axis of symmetry. We'll draw in our parabola. And we've graphed in vertex form. One thing I'd like to remind you is if we had an equation like this, y equals x minus 5, the quantity squared, and we wanted to find the vertex, remember our vertex would be the opposite of our h value, which would be 5, and since there is not a k value, it would be at 0. Or if we had an equation that said y equals 2x squared plus 3, our vertex would be at 0, 3, because there is not an h value inside the parentheses attached to the x. That is graphing a parabola in vertex form.